My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live. The busiest people at Lord's at the moment are those who have to make the entry on the honours boards up in the long room, because there's more than one person who has put his entry there. It all started with Imamul Haq, then Mustafizur Rahman, and the latest, getting 6 wickets. The best figures by a Pakistan bowler in World Cup history, and the youngest to take a fifer in the World Cup, Shaheen Afridi. At the end of all that, it meant that Bangladesh were just far too far from the target that was set for them. It was inconsequential at the end for both teams, but this is where they finished. 221 all out in 44 overs. A run chase that's been very unlike their World Cup campaign so far. They've generally got close even when they finished second best. And again, that man on the scorecard, Shakib 64 of 77, just that he needed a few scores along with him. Wow, to look back at that performance, we've got Robin, but I'll come straight to you, Zahir Khan. It's always a delight to see a fast bowler doing well, but a left-arm quick, a youngster, 19 years old. What a prospect for the future.
But it has been left-armers World Cup, isn't it? Fast bowlers for sure. A lot of seamers have been among the wickets, but left-armers particularly, I think, they've been having superb World Cup, and Shaheen Afridi, we all have been talking about him, a bright young prospect from Pakistan team. Pakistan over the years have been good with producing fast bowlers, and here is another find from that very big pool of fast bowlers, and good things to come for him for sure. I mean, this World Cup performances, and you've seen that he's grown in confidence even through the World Cup. Talking about Babar Azam and Shaheen Afridi for this particular World Cup, and you see that he was constantly progressing upwards. His graph was going upwards through the tournament, particularly that New Zealand that one spell which he bowled where he got those lengths going. And I think that has given him a lot of confidence moving forward in remaining matches, in terms of just getting that discipline going, and that has really worked for him well. Has got a very good slower one with his in his action. You can't really make out when it's coming slowly. His arm speed doesn't really change, so that's also another good variation which he has. And looked like he's got long road of success ahead of him.
I love the glee in Zahir when he talks about a member of his club in that sense. But imagine upstaging somebody like Mohammad Amir. He was the one everyone was talking about. He's the threat, and he always was going to be. But when you come from behind him and you take wickets like that, it's extra credit.
It is definitely. I think I think he supported Amir very well. And if you look at his analysis in that first game he got in Lords when he came back against South Africa, 1 for 54 in 8 overs, Amir had gotten a lot of wickets in that. So at the end of the day, I think it's about if the bowling armory is firing or not. And if they're not firing in tandem, if one of them is firing and the other one's playing a supporting role, that's exactly what you want. And you found that role that where Wahab Riaz is playing that supporting role beautifully for Pakistan, and Amir is performing, and then he's still playing that supporting role, and Afridi is performing. And I think it's great news for Pakistan that they have a youngster who's in his teens, much like Amir when he first came into the scene, who's an exciting left-arm fast bowler. And it looks like they will have 2 quality left-arm fast bowlers in the next World Cup. In 4 years' time, there'll be 2 quality left-arm fast bowlers, provided they play and they have their head on their shoulders, and they keep themselves fit and healthy and all of those other aspects. But yeah, I think in that sense, but I also think Pakistan have tremendous amount of talent within their country, and I just think that's not necessarily nurtured well. But these guys seem like they're good for the next 4 years at least.
Yeah, certainly. And another point that Robin had made earlier is you get all this talent, you add maybe a little bit more of a solid, charismatic leader, and you could do a lot more. But of course, Sarfraz has done well enough to take them this far. But overall, it was a performance from Pakistan. The one thing that they'll be disappointed with, despite getting to 11 points, let's just confirm to you one more time, they're not making it to that last 4, the semi-finals. But we'll get that for you very shortly. But I think overall, to assess their performance, yes, we've already had our discussion of net run rate versus head-to-head, but they look back and say, we've got the 11 points, if only.
Yes, and that's something which they'll have to look back and figure things out, just reassess how things went, what they could have done differently, and that's a usual practice. But credit to them that they did come back. The best they could have done was after that shake-up, the big shake-up, and more importantly, the public shake-up which they had to deal with.
What all for?
Won all four. I mean, that's the best thing they could have done. If it had to be their World Cup, then they would have certainly gone through. But they did show a lot of character in terms of getting back on the winning streak. But it's not easy. It's not easy when people are putting you down. The amount of pressure which was put on them, the expectations which all the fans had from them, which went the other way, and it got very emotional as well. There were a lot of emotions flowing around, be it from the team, from the fans, everyone. So I think they've done enough. Enough to reassure the fans that they got to back them. They got to back them. They got to support them through and through.
Yeah, I think, see, that's the thing that's a miss, right? It's like, if you look at that tournament, they have so much to be proud of, right? They've played 9 games, they've won 5, they've lost 3 games. I think what effect, and that one game was abandoned. And that game could have gone either ways. Anyone would have bet on Pakistan winning that game, given Sri Lanka's form at that point in the tournament. So that they've played good cricket, they've played excellent cricket, and I think this is something the fans should notice, and fans should take into account that when they lose to India, or when they lose to, these whole rivalry things are literally blown out of proportion. People have to start viewing sport as a sport and start backing their country in their sport without any malice involved, without any emotion involved, in that sense, where you don't take them to the cleaners. Not just, as I understand, of people who haven't played cricket, even their former cricketers have taken them to the cleaners after that loss against India. Now today you can look at, once the performance start becoming good, you can see that they're speaking the exact opposite that they spoke about when they lost to India. And these are things that people should pay attention to when actually they have a game that they have lost to India. It's not like the former cricketers also, it's not like the former cricketers who played for India in a World Cup before won against India, and so they're saying the same. So they have the right to be harsh on these players. You have to understand that these guys go out there to try and win a game. They do that, but sometimes they're not as well equipped to handle pressure of a rivalry that has been built over decades. So you need to be a little more supportive, I feel, and I think with a little more support, you see when the Pakistan fans have backed this Pakistan team after that win, after the India game, you've seen how the team has just taken that support and help them motivate themselves and really produce results. So it goes to show that when there's backing and when there's support and there's positive reinforcement from the multitudes, then the team automatically starts feeling good. Now today, irrespective of what happens in the Indian team, you see that there's so much positive reinforcement towards that team that performances keep reproducing itself. Now, if Pakistan and the people of Pakistan have that same kind of emotion towards their team and this positive reinforcement, I'm sure that they'll produce results and they'll be mighty proud of their attempt and their performance in this World Cup, and a lot of things to be proud of.
And I know you were very emotional about that whole Safraz incident that happened. So while we may have been a little harsh on him, saying that do they need someone like a mini Imran Khan, but you have to give him credit for actually coming through that.
Yeah, that was extremely difficult for any cricketer to be able to listen to someone coming to you when you're holding your son, when you're holding your child in your arms, and you have someone being abusive and being disrespectful in a public place. That's disgusting. That's not acceptable under any circumstances. It annoys me. It really upsets me when people can stoop down to that kind of level. But he was very mature about it. He realized that he's a leader of a team, he's a captain of a team, and even though it was for me, if it was me, I would have done something in that mall. But I think anyone, if you're holding your son, if you're being insulted in front of your son, it's deeply insulting. But he held himself together, which was fantastic, and didn't let his emotions take over. But he actually just walked away from the whole situation and was a perfect example of anyone who comes under attack in that kind of a situation.
And I think what happened after that was a reflection of how his team came together and, of course, lifted themselves to win 4 games on the trot. It just wasn't enough. A quick confirmation of our points table once again is that this is where Pakistan finished narrowly in 5th place by that net run rate. How ironic it is. 2 ironies from 1992. The parallels were there till the end. In 92, that extra point they grabbed against England helped them get through. Today, that extra point that they did manage to get against Sri Lanka, actually perhaps the 1 point they didn't get, cost them
No,
perhaps
the only difference here was England in 1992 lost to New Zealand.
Oh yeah. I'm saying the parallels were there
So
for
that's
Pakistan
why Pakistan qualified. So I think the situation remains the same. Only I think England lost to New Zealand, and they remained on 10 points, and then Pakistan won this game obviously, and then they went through. So I think the only difference is England beat New Zealand for the first time after 1983, I think, right?
Yes, absolutely. And also, but the other parallel was, of course, that New Zealand were the factor in Pakistan's getting to the final. In 1992, they beat them twice, and this time around, despite beating them, they finished just below them in that table. Let's talk about Bangladesh. It was a disappointing end to their campaign, despite Shakib al-Hasan once again contributing, but maybe they needed even more from him single-handedly to do that. Wickets fell at regular intervals, something similar to what happened against India. The one thing that didn't happen on this occasion was a rearguard action from Laika Saifuddin, but just wickets falling at regular intervals with that 300-plus run chase.
Well, yeah, they'd be a little disappointed with the way they finished the tournament. They would have definitely wanted to finish the tournament on a better note, at least with a better performance. You know, even if you don't win the game, but you go out there and they play with a lot of pride, and today they would be slightly disappointed with the way they finished this game. But all in all, I think they'd be very proud of the way they played cricket in this entire tournament. I think they've shown the world what a competitive side they are, and a side that is who are not minnows anymore, who are a competing side in world cricket today.
And that's what we've been saying throughout the tournament. Remember, just when we said initially when they won their first couple of games and said, no, it's not an upset anymore. So if you have a look at their victories, and this is the first time we corrected ourselves on My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live, particularly when they won that game against South Africa, the comment from their camp was, it's a cricket match we won, it's not that we've upset South Africa, those days are gone. And if you come back from there to the last game today, they'll be disappointed because this was not the Bangladesh that played the other 8 games.
And the one thing which stands out with Bangladesh this World Cup was that they had the belief. And they backed their belief with performances. It was about someone taking the responsibility, which Shakib did it beautifully. It was not the case of a batsman being in form. It was a case of a batsman being inspirational to the whole team, taking more responsibility and not giving up. You know, that was something which was very important. You need characters like that. You need players like that in the team to create. To cement that belief. I think there was enough experience in that squad to cement that belief which they came in with in this World Cup, and they were growing in confidence as the tournament went by, and possibly Shakib is the kind of personality who is very temperamental off the field,
yeah.
And because of that he was fired. He was fired to prove a point as well. And the fact we've always been mentioning on our shows that him coming at that number 3 spot has helped a great deal. Fizz was another inspiration in that squad. They've been resting him before the World Cup. They managed him well leading up to the World Cup, understanding. So I think in terms of planning, preparation, and the belief, Bangladesh scored very heavy in this World Cup.
750s in 8 games, and 41 was his lowest score. Today also on Cricbuzz Combox, he said his innings today was almost like a failure.
Yeah.
Ashrafi Mortaza went on to say at the end of the game that we feel sorry that we haven't backed Shakib because of the way he was with the ball, with the bat in the field.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they definitely feel be right for them to feel that way because he really stood out, right? I think what he's done is, with his inspired performances, he'd actually lifted the whole team up. I think after the first couple of games, everyone realized he's playing at a different level. You can just see that 606 runs, and he's not even, and he hasn't even gone to the knockouts, and that you're gonna feel for a guy like that. But you also feel extremely happy that, Shakib is truly realizing his potential as an athlete. And Shakib is someone who worked very hard before this World Cup began. He worked a lot on his fitness, a lot of games. I think I mentioned earlier in one of the shows that when he wasn't playing matches for Sunrisers, he had his coach over and he would practice with his coach at Hyderabad, do a lot of practice with him, and the coach, his batting coach, stayed with him through predominantly the entire IPL. And then I think only the last 2 weeks he went back, and he still continued practicing because he didn't play all games Shakib in the IPL. So he worked really hard on his batting, and I think that the results are there to see as to how great he was.
You see him 4 years later in another World Cup?
100%. His last World Cup 4 years later, 100%.
There you go.
He's a spinner. He's not a fast bowler. And he's batting at number 3. He's going to bulk up the runs over the next 4 years.
More experienced batsman he will be in the next World Cup.
There you go. Absolutely no nonsense when those answers were coming. Yes, we will see Shakib at the next World Cup and he'll be even better. That's scary for the opposition. But as far as the Pakistan bowling is concerned, yes, we are raving about Shaheen Afridi, but he too had to be part of a team, and the team did well for him, supporting him there. Wahab Riaz, we briefly mentioned. Mohammad Anwar is good as usual, just the 1 wicket today. But what about Shadab Khan as well? 2 for 59. It kind of hides when you talk about someone taking a 6 for, but he was good.
Yeah. Actually, this World Cup, if you look at how the World Cup has gone, the spinners have made the impact, but it's just that the magnitude of performances from the fast bowlers have been so huge that their contribution had just gone unnoticed. Yeah. But they are quietly doing their job. Like Shadab also has been coming, taking those 2 wickets, 3 wickets consistently. It's just that the bowlers have been overshadowing, the fast bowlers particularly have been overshadowing the spinners. You look at, when you look at Indian team as well, Chahal also has been bowling consistently well, and so are the other few spinners in the tournament. It's just that their contribution have gone unnoticed so far.
Yeah, same with Mehdi Hassan Miraj for Bangladesh, and of course Mustafizur gets Shakib on the list
for that match.
And Shakib as well. Yeah, of course. But Sarfraz, of course, as we expected at the end of the game, said that one game against West Indies cost us this tournament.
Yeah, it just goes to show that in a tournament like the World Cup, you need to be switched on from the word go. Every game matters and every game is crucial, and you cannot take that first game lightly. It's critical that you treat every game like your last game and play like you're playing with your back against the wall. And that's what brings the best out of Pakistan. I think they should just safely assume that we play our best cricket from here. So let's just put ourselves against the wall and go out punching.
It is, and they've said they've got introspection to do. They've got 2 months off. They will introspect, but maybe in hindsight, of course, they'll look at that West Indies game, but they'd also say a couple of personnel who came in late: Haris Sohail, Shaheen Afridi. And if only they could go in rewind and say, okay, let's stick them in from game 1. That's
just so true. I think how their campaign has gone is just being reactive than being proactive. I think that's the word coming to my mind. They've been reacting to situations. They've been just going on about figuring things out as they've moved along in the tournament, and that something has not helped them. Then they always that touch behind. And that's what has happened with them, So in terms of their team, it was right up there. They just needed to get things together at the right time. They got it together. It was just touch too late in the tournament for them.
And also, I think that when you've spent 45 days in England before the World Cup begins, you have to figure out who you're going to play. As in, I think with the likes of Mickey Arthur, a man of his stature up there, you cannot be reactive in your selection. You have to be proactive. You have to know who your bowlers are, especially if you've spent a month and a half.
Not everybody gets the luxury.
Yeah, if you've played like a month and a half of cricket there before the tournament begins, then you need to be proactive as to who your players are, who you recognize those players, and you stick with them, you back them. And only if they don't perform over a period of 2 games, 3 games is when you say, okay, we'll try some other personnel, because every game becomes important.
Yep. So we had a tough tussle for the My 11 Circle Most Valuable Player. Of course, Mustafizur put his name right up there with a 5-for, but guess who trumped him? It was Shaheen Afridi with the best bowling figures in this tournament. We've had plenty of 5-fors, 9 10 of them in fact, and the first time we've seen a 6 for 35, and he is our My 11 Circle most valuable player, a bunch of points. So I'm sure that must have turned. All you Mustafizur people would have been leading at one stage, and suddenly along comes Shaheen Afridi, and the tables have turned. So who's our champion? Our Beat the Expert champion is Mahesh Yadav from Madhya Pradesh with 493 points. And I can tell you what, with 493 you probably had both in the team, but Mustafizur backers would have thought you would have had it at the halfway stage. 5 times the amount of cash, Dada Ka Vada. But just one more factor that I think today further confirmed. We talked about it in the preview. Win the toss, bat first, win the game. Second half of the tournament. We're not telling the semi-finalists. We're just reiterating
Yes,
it.
let's not tell the semi-finalists at all.
That's the updated
You
figures.
don't have to tell this to anyone.
They know it.
They already know it.
Yeah.
They're well aware of it. I'm sure those captains are practicing the tosses back.
Yeah, 15-3. Oh, God. I've heard a lot of people talking about practicing. Virat Kohli was awful at tosses for a while.
Yeah, even in this tournament, he didn't win many tosses, I think. I think he won the last one, but he didn't.
See, I think to me, when you're playing semis, it doesn't really matter what you're doing first. Yes, maybe batting first will have its own advantages as the scoreboard pressure will come into play from that angle. You know, but otherwise, you just got to believe that it's 100 overs, and you got to look at 100 overs, and you got to play your good cricket over the course of the game, if not like 80-90% of the game, and that should get you home.
You're sounding like a captain who's just lost the toss.
Huh? No, I mean,
No, but
I agree with you. I agree with you.
The fact that I'm speaking before the toss says a lot.
Yes,
if
yeah,
I'm saying this
absolutely,
after the toss, then that means I've
then
lost
you know
the game.
you're doing damage control.
I
But
think,
even before tosses happen.
So I think the team meeting which is going to happen before the match for all the teams, it depends on how they look at it. You know, if you're going in with the mindset that toss is very important, then toss will be very, very important in your head.
Yeah.
And if the toss is very important in your head and you have to go out there and field, then you're always
On the back foot.
You're always looking at the game in that fashion.
Yeah.
So as
Do you think
analysts,
it would
we
be-
can look at it, but I think as
Yeah,
players,
but do you think, I'm just asking, it's something that captains or coaches or the team management should address with the team and just say that, listen guys, don't pay attention to the toss. It doesn't matter if you bat first or bowl first. We have a team well equipped enough to win the match irrespective of us batting first or second.
I think it's important that the think tank thinks in that fashion. You know,
Yeah.
you prepare for a rainy day.
Yeah.
So that's something
That
which,
communication would
that
help,
communication needs to happen.
Yeah.
You know, and it's very natural thing to get drifted by.
Yeah.
Because make no mistake, once you get closer to the semis and finals, you know, all these patterns develop.
Correct.
And you know, you have the analyst with the team as well, and you have your support staff, and now the support staff is also, there's a long list with each and every team. So so it's very important to control that environment, and what kind of message, what kind of positivity you are spreading across the group matters a lot.
Yeah, the energy changes, I think.
Yeah.
Once, I think, I'm of the belief that it should be communicated so that there's a balance of energy. Otherwise, people are thinking, because thoughts are personal, right? So, you know, your emotions are personal. So you're thinking about, okay, this, and everyone, I can just talk about our team, know for a fact that everyone are individually very sharp in their mind and they're very turned on and switched on about things. So they'll know that the toss plays a factor. But if it's communicated as a group and everyone starts thinking that the toss is inconsequential, then I think that it will be inconsequential when they go out there and play.
Fair enough. And that's something Virat Kohli has maintained throughout. And if we are talking about it, you can be sure a lot of people in the team would be as well. But it's out of the way. It's not quite like, say, the Lord's Test day one in those conditions where it can make such a huge difference. But there are a couple of very important games coming up tomorrow. And the reason they are is because even though the 4 teams are in the semi-finals, we have India playing Sri Lanka. A win for them and a loss for Australia would mean India would go to Old Trafford to play New Zealand, and Australia would play England at Edgbaston. However, if both teams were to win their matches tomorrow, which is India and Australia, then it would be as things stand. Australia at Old Trafford against New Zealand, India versus England at Edgbaston. Let's start with India versus Sri Lanka. Obviously, very clear cut at Headingley. pretty much go out and win the game, and it's great final tuning up before that semi-final.
It is, yeah. I think it will. It should be a dress rehearsal. At least the batting order should be a dress rehearsal of what they would have for the semi-finals. As in, it's like the ideal opportunity to test out whoever you want to test out and finalize who you want to bat at which position. I also think they need an extra bowler. I think they need that sixth bowler option, and I think that they have to make a choice based on that sixth bowler option, be it a part-time bowler or a regular bowler. It could be Kuldeep or Ravi, or I mean, when I say Ravi, I mean Jadeja, or it could be the likes of Kedar, who can also coming back into this side. They have to have six bowlers, because in the way cricket's played today, you need to have that cushion. You need to give the bowlers, that cushion of over sixth bowler.
Yeah, I know the other day you were saying that you've got 5 good bowlers, and we know Hardik has put his hand up and said I can bowl 10, but you still need that cushion.
Yes, it's good to have that cushion. There is no doubt about it. Simply for the fact you've seen Bhuvneshwar walking back to the dressing room in one of the matches in the World Cup. You don't want that happening in a big semi-final.
Correct. Yeah.
So if someone has some niggle or something happens in the game, you should be prepared for that. Bhuvneshwar Kumar had bowled only 2 overs. So you imagine if you don't have that cushion, you have to find that option in maybe Virat Kohli is the option, or Rohit Sharma, who has bowled in a I don't know when was the last time he has actually bowled. So these are the 2 possible options you have in that scenario. So looking at that, maybe if it was a bilateral series, you can say, okay, fine, we'll try this combination.
Yeah.
But I don't think in a match like semi-finals we should take that chance. It's a very outside chance, but you should not go in the match with that kind of attitude. Bumrah has already said that he wants to play the match and he will be part of the playing 11. Yeah. So that's another thing. The one more point which is very important from Indian team's point of view is that what are the plans with regard to 2 spinners? If they have the clarity on that, then that bowler should be playing in tomorrow's match. That is a must, according to me. It's Australia, England and New Zealand. The possibility is that you would prefer the spin bowling option.
Against any of them.
Yeah, 2 spin bowling options against these teams. So if you have the clarity of that, then give the guy that those 10 overs in a match scenario under pressure. Sri Lankans are good players of spin.
But you wouldn't look at them as an opposition rather than saying we need to get our 11 sorted.
Exactly. Yeah. If anything, to be fine-tuned, so that's the way you should look at this game. Yes, winning of course is important, because that's part of the plan, that has always been part of the process and the topmost priority. But also worth figuring things out in terms of, can we alter anything with regard to the semi-finals in terms of those middle order overs also, which we've been talking about, in terms of setting the platform, in terms of using someone as power hitter, so all those kind of things, if need be, they should be, that's the time tomorrow they should throw it out there and see how it goes.
Good luxury to have this particular game going in where that, obviously you still want to win.
Yeah,
but
I think India will be very happy that we have this game before the semi-finals, because it gives them an opportunity to really work on their strengths and figure out their options before they get into the semi-finals. So I think it's a superb game for them to have right before the semi-finals. So I think they'll really want to test out everything that they want to test out before. They'll probably try out everything that they want to try out before they go into the semi-finals.
Yep, and of course it was Chaku, then called Kulcha, who came together against Sri Lanka in 2017 when India went on to win 5-0. So they'll have familiar foes in their mind. But for Sri Lanka, well, definitely just time to, again, like Pakistan, like Bangladesh, want to go out on a high. They were the team who lit up the tournament with that win against England. Little disappointing after that. So they'll want to come back in form. They already know Avishka Fernando, brilliant talent. They'll want him to shine against a team like India. But again, it's tough to call this, because you're really looking at any 11 really on the park.
Well, they also were late in expressing or trying the young talent. They went in a situation and decided, okay, fine, let's bring in Avishka Fernando. And he responded. That's been the story of this World Cup. A few youngsters.
You can make an 11 of late bloomers in this tournament. They'll be a cracking side.
Really?
Look, they were afraid of dropping Thisara Pereira as well.
Correct,
Eventually
yeah.
they did.
They did.
So that also shows that now they are thinking about what's coming post World Cup, what kind of planning should happen. The new leader is there. Karuna Ratne is fairly inexperienced. Malinga has supported him in the best way possible. Has been a true inspiration for the whole group. It was important as well because you want Sri Lankan cricket to flourish again. They've just gone off track a bit, and there are certain structural changes for sure needs to be done in that setup. So they also realized that. I think halfway through the tournament, as they were in it, they've realized things, and that should go a long way in terms of development of that team. So tomorrow's game, from that point of view, they will be approaching, and they will be trying out their young talent and encourage them to express themselves freely.
Yeah, fair enough. I get your point. Maybe not 11, but
Not
I'm sure you
11.
can maybe
4 or 5
find 4 or
of them,
5.
yeah,
Sixes size. We'll play a sixes
Sixes
tournament
side
with them.
kind of a
Yeah, there
thing,
you go.
for
You've got Kemar Roach, Avishka Fernando, Shaheen Afridi. It'll be a good side, whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure.
Haris Sohail.
Yeah.
There's 4 already. Maybe we'll try and unearth a few. Maybe you can give us some suggestions as to anyone you feel is even a slight late bloomer. But late bloomer or early bloomer, you can only pick people in the 11 when you're making your My 11 Circle team. And of course, tomorrow you've got embarrassment of riches with 2 matches to choose from. India versus Sri Lanka is the day game, and Australia versus South Africa is the day-night fixture. And he's going to have his hands full, isn't he, Dada? He just about managed to get his one team. Now he's going to have to choose 2 teams, and he's a fierce competitor. So you have 2 chances to win against him tomorrow. Second game. Australia versus South Africa. We've almost forgotten South Africa are still around. I thought they'd left. Well, they are still around. They've got one more match to play at Old Trafford against the Aussies, who are tuning up, like India, for a semi-final. And they too know that there's something on the line for them. They don't want to go to Birmingham and play against England. I mean, I know Zahir might have a different point of view on that, but for the moment, I'd pretty much say you want to stay at number 1.
Of course, you want to stay at number 1, right? As in you've really earned that spot. They played high quality cricket, and they've they really played out of their skins after what's happened in the Australian cricket over the last 12-18 months. You have to give credit to the fact that they've played exceedingly well in this World Cup, and they are someone who know to play in World Cups, and they've got a great side, and they'd want to finish the league stage with a win on a high. And then go take that first spot and play New Zealand.
Yeah, just that one chase and a bunch of defended totals there. But yeah, I know at some point I'm going to get it out of you. But yeah, you don't feel that they necessarily are going to choose one team or another, but just keep winning.
Yeah, I mean, keep it simple, isn't it?
Yeah.
For South Africa, I think tomorrow's match is very important. When you have a tournament like this, it's very important you finish on a high, because that momentum you can carry forward then in terms of the planning and preparation.
Like Pakistan.
Yeah, I know that it's too late for South Africa to work, but they've had a World Cup which they want to forget as soon as possible, and to do that, win always helps.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what happened in the first 5 games. It's about how you finished, and what kind of momentum you're carrying after this as well. So I think World Cup is just a tournament end of the day, and it's a milestone tournament, but cricket still goes on. So I think that's the attitude and approach which South African team should have, and that's the attitude FAF should, and the communication FAF and the whole support staff should have with the team, and one last push, go on a high. That should be the motto.
Quick one, both teams. I know sometimes when we feel no changes, we dismiss the team in 5 seconds. Are you going to dismiss this in 5 seconds? Or are you going to look at perhaps Ngidi didn't play that last game, Buran Hendricks maybe gets a go, David Miller go and express himself?
I'm not quite sure. I think they'd want to stick to that winning combination and see what comes out of it. That's my thought process, because they've just won a game and convincingly in the previous match, so I think they'd probably want to go with the same lineup. I don't think they'd want to change it. But honestly, with the kind of form that Stark and Barendorf are in, I find it difficult to believe that the South Africans will have a win over Australia. It seems like
I have a good feeling about that.
Yeah?
Good feeling means that they might win.
Means the jacket which you're wearing, if you wear it tomorrow, the chances will be they will lose.
There it comes again.
But if you wear the shirt,
Yeah.
you wear the shirt, if you wear that
Yeah.
shirt and yellow pants,
Yeah.
Then
South Africa have a good chance.
if you want India to go through at number 1,
Yeah, you know what
Yellow-
color?
yellow
to
Even
wear.
if I wear this shirt and yellow pants, I wouldn't reach the
it
studio. in
doesn't
one
matter.
piece.
Get yellow tomorrow.
They throw things at me. Okay, let's look at the yellow side, the yellow and gold. Actually, I'm wearing kind of green and gold. So let's see what it is. Can we dismiss this pretty quickly? We know that Peter Hanscom is there in place of Sean Marsh, but I reckon after all that talk about Hanscom should have been there in the first place. But Alex Carey's done good. They don't need a reserve wicketkeeper. I think this is looking pretty settled because they too, like India, will want to look at their best 11 before the semi.
Yeah, they'll keep it simple, silly.
Get rid of it.
They'll follow the KISS formula.
That side is settled. I
they
don't
won't-
think
they won't change.
they're going to do a whole lot of changes. Maybe think of Kultanal coming back in. That's
Instead of
the
whom,
only
like,
possible.
But instead of
Mitchell Stark might be resting tomorrow.
Just for a rest. Fair.
yeah, they do that with
Yeah.
Mitchell Stark. Yeah, correct. Yeah, that might happen.
Treat him with kid gloves, Mitchell Stark. Yes, that's possibly one way
It's
they could
strange,
go.
isn't it? Like to see a fully grown man treated like that. He can be so menacing on the field, but you're treating him like as if he's a vase in a china shop.
He's fragile.
Yeah, it's like that. It's I don't get it. There's no. It doesn't like
They
gel.
want him to last for 20 more overs rather than 30 more overs. That's what they're thinking about. All right, that's what we feel. But we've also got one little mystery to unravel. Maybe not such a tough one, but let's unravel it for you. Remind you of our Joy Factor question. The question being, 4 of the last 5 names on an Indian Test cricket list are Ajinkya Rahane, Rahul Dravid, Saurav Ganguly and Mohammad Azharuddin. What name is missing and what is the list about? And the answer is Test centuries at Lords. I guess if you had put Agarkar in there with other batsmen, it would have given it away. But this is one achievement he'll always remember till he tells his grandchildren about it. Ajit Agarkar, century at Lords. How many times have you heard about it?
A very proud centurion, I must say. Yeah,
Yeah.
n number of times.
Yes.
Really? I would never imagine Ajit Bhai to actually talk about this.
Oh no, he's very proud of that
Yeah,
fact. Yeah.
He should be. I know he's understated, but
I remember when we'd won the World Cup in 2007, he was like, he had his medal on, and I'll never forget this. And 2 hours.
won't take it off.
Yeah, he refused to take. He's like, you do not understand what this means to me and to us. You all just don't know yet. And he was the first one who understood the magnitude of that victory, right? And all of us were like, he had that medal on even when we had a team party. Like after we came back to the hotel and we cut a cake and we went back to our room, had a shower. We came back, he wore that medal back to the team drinks again. And he's like, you all don't understand. I'm going to wear this till we get back. And then that's when it hit us like, maybe we don't get how big this is. Then we landed in India and we realized that what we actually
The magnitude of
yeah, the magnitude of it.
yeah, I had the privilege of interviewing Sir Paul McCartney on the day he got that 100, and the first thing I asked him was, how was the day at the cricket? He said, I would have liked Tendulkar to get 100, but another chap got it. I'm sure he's all right, but he's not quite Tendulkar. So
No, but I think it's also
he's proud of that fact.
yeah,
that he has won
I think it's
Mr.
poetic
Tendulkar as
justice
well.
also. Remember the time that we always used to see Ajit
Bombay
Bhai-
Duck?
Yeah, the Bombay. That's so sad, but I think it's poetic justice that you get a cricket at the home of cricket.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I think.
Absolutely. Name in the honours board, call me what you like. But we actually have a winner here. I wonder what his nickname is or isn't. Shriyam Nigam. Interesting. SHR1 Yam. Shriyam Nigam, well done to pick that one up. All Test centurions at Lords. Well, we've also had another centurion, of course, today, Imamul Haq, name on the honours board. 2 more bowlers who've got their names on the honours board. But let's quickly remind you what we're doing tomorrow. We are, of course, going to be covering the first game in its entirety, India versus Sri Lanka. But because the league stage finishes, we will be coming back to you with a special show of My 11 Circle Presents Cricbuzz Live to wrap everything up with Australia and South Africa, so we know exactly who's playing whom and where they're playing once that game is concluded. So join us for all of that. Just a time to say thank you to Zahir, to Robin.
Pleasure.
And we've got lots to look forward to tomorrow. A long day. India versus Sri Lanka and Australia versus South Africa. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all to play for. We'll see you then.